But if you look at this from an outside perspective, I can see the word of Generation Identity saying they will follow all maritime law and work to save people if they have to. And then I can look at the word of groups like It's Going Down and Antifa, where they say they will bash people, they have attacked people in the past, and they want militancy. How's it going, everybody? The cultural civil war is in full swing, with the latest update being Lauren Southern has had her Patreon account deleted. So for those that don't know, Patreon is a place where you can sign up to give monthly donations or pay a creator because you like the content they produce. There's options for giving for every video that's created or just giving monthly. And many of you know that I use Patreon. So the first thing I want to say, I understand there's an inherent risk in doing a video where I am going to be talking about a platform that I use. Call it a conflict of interest, I think that's fair to say, but the bulk of the income I get comes from Patreon. And so, again, potential risks and a potential conflict of interest, but keep that in mind as I do this video. Now, Lauren Southern is not without controversy. She's a conservative political commentator and media activist, and she was planning on going onto a large boat set up by a group called Generation Identity. This is a group that they believe that Europe is losing its culture. Some people refer to them as fascists or white nationalists, but I think if you talk to them, it's more about the preservation of their culture and fighting back against mass migration from Africa. But this video isn't supposed to be about Generation Identity. We're going to talk more about the social ramifications of deplatforming people, removing their funding. Now, I sent a request to Patreon asking why they took down Lauren Southern's account, and what they said was that, at Patreon, we believe in freedom of speech. We are creating a platform that empowers creators to share and debate ideas. In this instance, the creators are planning activities that are likely to cause loss of life. This is a violation of our policies, and as a result, we removed the pages from Patreon. So is Lauren Southern planning activities which will likely cause loss of life? Simple answer, no. Lauren Southern is not a member of Generation Identity. She is not planning any of these activities. She is simply going to be going on the boat and producing media and content around it. She has engaged in activism with these groups in the past, but again, she's not organizing these missions, these activities. They would continue with or without Lauren. So is this the real reason that Patreon took her page down? Well, I can't say specifically what Patreon's motives are, but it seems like her going on this trip with Generation Identity really is the reason. And if you go to Lauren's page, which unfortunately now has been deleted, she doesn't really have anything on there that says she is engaging in these activities or she is doing anything for them. However, in one of her videos on YouTube, she does refer to the group as we and does say we are fundraising. So you could look at that as her saying she is a part of this group and she is working with them on whatever these plans are. However, on Patreon, she refers to the group as they. So it is a bit complicated. The reason could then be, we could reasonably say, oh, well, you know, it looks like Patreon really is concerned about this mission and what they're doing. So the question then becomes, what is Generation Identity going to be doing? Well, if you look at the interviews with Generation Identity, their plans for what they're doing in the Mediterranean sound almost identical to what the NGOs already do, the main difference being many of the NGO ships bring the migrants into Europe, and what Generation Identity says they want to do is send the migrants back. They claim that they will follow maritime law and help anyone who might be drowning and rescue anyone that needs saving. But instead of bringing them to Europe, they will bring them back to the African coast. But this isn't really about what we think these groups might be doing. Don't ask me. I mean, honestly, I don't know Generation Identity. I don't know if they truly are racist or not. You take them at their word, and they're people concerned about their culture and mass migration. You look at the word of groups like Hope Not Hate, and they're racist, far-right white nationalists. That's not really the point. The point is there is a divide in the perception as to what this group is going to be doing. So we want to ask ourselves, is Patreon taking a political stance in the removal of Lauren Southern's account? And the answer is definitively yes. Now, that doesn't mean that Patreon knows Lauren and doesn't like her politics, but it certainly means that the perspective they're taking on this mission is coming from the left and not the right. The right's perspective is that they're going to be saving lives and bringing people back to Africa. The left's perspective is that they're going to be interfering in rescue missions which could cause harm to people. So it is safe to say that whether or not Patreon is actively opposed to Lauren Southern, their information and their perspective is based on the left. So there is a bit of a political stance here. But there is more, because this truly is political. See, there has been a group of people that have been reporting a Patreon account known as It's Going Down. This is a website run by extremists, anarchists, communists, and people associated with anti-fascists, and they have a Patreon. And this Patreon brings in over $1,000 per month. Now, I'm shown photos alleging that they're screenshots of people reporting this page to Patreon saying it should be taken down because they advocate illegal activities, and to some degree they advocate violence. Patreon has not removed this profile. When you look at the website for It's Going Down, they actually tell people how to sabotage railroad tracks. They criticize pacifism, and they say that they're pushing to create more militancy amongst the left. This is a group that has flat out called for the destruction of all political and economic systems that oppress people. This is a bit of an extreme group, and on their website they advocate some relatively extreme things, which you could argue would result in a loss of life. They depict pictures of people wearing black masks and carrying wooden sticks, which we know have been used to fight people at political rallies. This is a group of people that you could say is a bit extreme. But Patreon has not taken down this page for It's Going Down after repeatedly being reported by numerous people. I don't care to criticize one side over the other. I personally disagree with, this Mediterranean mission. They're going to do what they do, and I see a lot of risk to it. And, again, personally, it's not something that I agree with. But it's not about what I agree with. It's about, are we playing fair and making sure that there is an equal exchange of ideas and we're not playing favorites? If a group like It's Going Down can advocate sabotage and conflict, telling people to become militant, and if they're reported time and time again with no consequence, it really does feel like Patreon is playing politics here, because the mission that these people at Generation Identity are planning on going on, they have personally said time and time again they will actually work to save people. So if you're going to take the left's narrative, Generation Identity will likely cause loss of life, and groups like It's Going Down are fighting to end oppression. But if you look at this from an outside perspective, I can see the word of Generation Identity saying they will follow all maritime law and work to save people if they have to. And then I can look at the word of groups like It's Going Down and Antifa, where they say they will bash people, they have attacked people in the past, and they want militancy. I'm not involved with either of these groups, and I can see It's Going Down calling for destruction and eco-terrorism. And I can look at Generation Identity and see that they're saying they want to protect lives. And so am I supposed to look at the news articles that claim they know what Generation Identity wants to do, or should I just listen to what they're saying they're going to do? It doesn't mean I should trust them, but it means all I really have to go off of is It's Going Down saying be militant and destructive, and Generation Identity saying we're going to control migration and send these people safely back to Africa. There's a serious divide here, and Patreon has only taken down the accounts of one of these factions, which lends me to believe it's political. Now, I'm not stupid. I understand Patreon really has a PR crisis on their hands, because this mission is very, very high profile, and the press has been very negative about it. So it could just come down to Patreon is trying to protect their bottom line. People don't really know about It's Going Down. It's really small. They're not getting a ton of press. The media doesn't talk about the things that Antifa and these groups do, so there's not too much of a risk on Patreon's part. The reality is that money might be the biggest motivator. Patreon probably is looking at what's their risk versus reward. If this mission is carried out and there is loss of life, they're going to be reflected very poorly upon. And if groups like It's Going Down continue doing what they do, the media doesn't report on the violence we see from Antifa for the most part. They do sometimes. So the risk really is mostly on the side of Generation Identity, and Patreon is going to act accordingly. The last thing I should say, look, again, Patreon can delete whoever they want. It's their platform. But this just means there needs to be alternatives, and there are. So this is where I'm going to say, I know that I never advocate violence or destruction or anything, and I never engage in any activities which could result in a loss of life, but I think it's smart to say that when we see publicity-motivated takedowns or politically motivated takedowns, whatever you want to call it, there does need to be an alternative. So I'm going to be focusing very heavily on minds.com, so that's minds.com, where I will be posting exclusive content and behind-the-scenes photos and explanations there. and that's going to be set at $10 per month. In the future, Minds tells me they're going to be rolling out expanded features, which will be very similar to what Patreon and GoFundMe and other platforms have, so it'll only get better. But I really do like the platform, and I will be using that a bit more. So, if you want to support the work that I do, go to minds.com/Timcast, and if you see any posts with a little key symbol on it, you can click that, sign up for $10 a month, and I will be posting significantly more often there. I will still be running Patreon. I'm not making this video to condemn them, but just to point out what is going on. And I understand the inherent risks and the obvious conflict of interest as somebody who uses the platform, but it is what it is. So comment below and let me know what you think. Is this a politically motivated takedown? Is it a publicity motivated takedown? Why is this happening? I'd like to know what you think. If you like the video, click the like button. And if you want to support the work that I do, everything I just explained, right? So minds.com, Minds. That's where I'll be from now on, and I will have a link to that in the description of all my newer videos. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m.